Good morning, Kevin.
Morning, Mike.
Um, Tell me this. This has been an ongoing saga that's taken you all the way through May. You're here now in the first week of November. You finally traded Jack away. What was the biggest factor in your mind in making this trade right now, this week, today with Vegas?
Well, I feel that the best way to look at it is probably what I said and explained to you guys before, that there was never a pressure point that we felt that it was going to be at a certain time or had to be done by a certain time. And we were going to do this when we felt it was the right time and the best time for our organization with the best return. And different pressure points have come and gone, and we've been working at this for, as you mentioned, a long time, daily. And obviously we made this decision because we felt it was right for our organization. So that's the best way to explain.
Hi, Kevin. John Warrell with the Associated Press. And after so much time went by, do you feel the wait was worth it? And is there anything that you can think of in retrospect that could have been done to have resolved this earlier? Because it kind of got nasty publicly.
Well, I think, John, that it was never personal. I said that from the beginning with Jack, that we have to do what we felt was the best thing for our organization. What I can tell you is we got to a point where this was the offer that we felt was the strongest we had up to this date, and we felt very good about it. We worked extremely hard for months and months, and we were not going to compromise on what we felt we needed as a return. This was a really important decision for us. So however long it was going to take, it was going to take. But at the same point, when we felt it was the right time, we were going to make the deal.
Kevin, as far as the trade itself, it just seemed like a lot of organizations weren't willing to give you a top prospect for a long time. Now you got one in Krebs. I think we can all agree on that. But did it take just a while for teams to finally come up with, hey, we are willing to give you the top prospect in our organization?
Yeah, it was, these negotiations were, we've talked to everybody in the league, and just at different times and just checking in. And sometimes they got more serious, and then different reasons, Paul, they would, the discussions would break down. What I felt strongly about was we were not going to be backed into a corner or feel that we were going to make a deal that we did not feel was right for us, regardless of any external pressure, anything being said. And absolutely, Peyton Krebs was someone we had targeted and worked extremely hard and to get in this deal. So that was really, really important to us. And you're right, it wasn't easy. A lot of conversations we had along the way. Things would break down when it came to certain types of things that we were asking for. But we felt strongly we were not going to compromise on what we needed.
Hey, Kevin, you just kind of touched on Peyton, but I was wondering just in general with the two players that you're getting back, why were these attractive pieces for you and what made them, so crucial to get this deal done?
Yeah. So, as I've talked to you guys over the last year, and then more specifically, as we got towards training camp, it was about developing our young core, and both of these players fit into our young core moving forward. Alex is a very good hockey player, proven in this league, under contract for this year and the next 4 years at a young age, and a very productive player and high character, leader, all the things that the intangibles, wants to be part of the solution. He was unbelievable in my conversation with him and how excited he is to be a Buffalo Sabre, and told me this is a dream come true for him. So that's exactly the type of person and talent on the ice we need, and exactly the type of personality we need off the ice as we drive our culture forward. And in terms of Peyton Krebs, it's really important that we targeted young players that are going to fit us moving forward. And he has a lot of what we were looking for in terms of the way he plays the game, his approach, his on-ice approach, his off-ice approach, his character, his leadership qualities. That all played a part in this. And, we're thrilled. We're thrilled about both of them. It was really important for us, these two players in particular, and these type of players that we can move forward with for many years.
Thanks, Kevin.
Kevin, have you spoken to Jack, and just what was his reaction to the deal if you did?
I did. I spoke to Jack. We had a long conversation that obviously you keep the details of that, private. But what I can tell you is I care about Jack Eichel as a person. I told him that. I wish him nothing but the best moving forward. This has been a really, really challenging situation for everyone involved. And I wished him the best of luck, and I want nothing more than for Jack to get healthy and, do what he loves to do, which is play the game. And I told him that. And I also told him that through this process, this was never personal. This was me doing the job that I had to do as in my role to help our franchise move forward. Just as he and, Pat Brisson and his group had to do what they had to do. So, but we had a great talk. We agreed to, obviously at some point connect down the road again. And I would just want to make sure I publicly, wish him well.
Hi, Kevin. There were, a lot of reports and rumors through this whole thing, which comes as no surprise. But last night, some pretty intense reports that Calgary, Matthew Tkachuk was on the table. How close was that all to coming to fruition, or was Vegas kind of the main trading partner through this whole thing?
Well, there's been, as I mentioned, there's had conversations with a lot of teams, and some were, surface level, checking in. We'd be interested. Some were a little more focused on the medical side. Some were, we'd love to talk to you, Kevin. Salary retention is the only way we're going to start the conversation. And that it was a absolute non-starter from the beginning with us, that we would not compromise on. So there was all these different types of conversations. And things did heat up over, let's say, the last week with multiple teams. I was made aware of in a report last night, regarding team and the players that you mentioned. And all I can tell you is it's not accurate. That was not correct in terms of players that were being tossed around. That's an unfortunate thing when those types of reports go out. But, ultimately what I can tell you is, as we went through this process, this was our focus with Vegas. As long as we could get this deal to where we got it, and the players that we got, and the extra pieces, that was our focus. So we're excited for obvious reasons, and I'm ready to move this franchise forward.
Kevin, just given your cap situation, why was salary retention a non-starter for you? And secondly, as more medical information was gathered, especially in the last couple of months, given Jack's condition, were teams more willing to be receptive to the artificial disc replacement, just based on your conversations?
Yeah, well, what was going on over the last couple of months is teams were getting a little more clarity from the medical side, Lance, in terms of understanding, having conversations with our doctor, and just, sharing information, understanding exactly, what was going on and why. And so those conversations were going on one side, and there's the hockey conversations going on, but they all had to come together to make a deal. And what I've learned in this process is, Jack saw a lot of different doctors, and there were a lot of different opinions. Some felt more comfortable that, okay, we'd be willing to do this ADR surgery. Some said that, we agree with the Sabres doctors and we'd not be comfortable. So, that was just it. This was an extremely complicated situation, and that added to it. So, and in terms of, salary retention, felt that, when we're talking about the term of the contract that we were trading away to retain salary and for this level of player, was going to be a non-starter. We want to make sure that we have the flexibility, moving forward, not just in the short term, but, 4 or 5 years down the road, to have that flexibility to be able to do what we need to do as an organization. So that's why it was just, something we were not going to compromise on.
Morning, Kevin. Thanks for hopping on. I know when we had spoken with you and Jack and Sam and Risto before the offseason, started, they had kind of expressed obviously their wishes, and after a whole offseason and Risto gets moved and Sam gets moved and now Jack is moved, do you almost have this sense of relief knowing that these were 3 pieces that if you were going to move this franchise forward, we knew at the very least 2 of them would have to move, and now it's all 3 of them are gone, but now after however many months you can kind of move forward with this new group that you've got in place right now?
Yeah, well, I think it's a fair question. I think the important point to make on that is all of the people that you just mentioned that we've moved, they're excellent hockey players and they're excellent people, but we had to identify how we were going to move this franchise forward, in not just the short term, but the long term, and make those decisions. And I go back to, we need to build an organization of people and players that want to be here, that are truly buying in and all in. And that was an important part of this. So, what I've talked to the players about is the connectivity to our fan base, and we need to be a team that has the culture in the locker room of truly caring about each other and caring about putting the jersey on, and the connection we need to make with fans. That's all the stuff that we're building. So we had to make decisions with certain players to make sure that we were following that vision, and then the players in pieces we were getting back were going to be buying into that, and that's what we've worked really hard on. So we're not in a rush. Peyton Krebs we're going to assign to Rochester right away, and that's because we're not in a rush to put him in here right away and have to just jump right into the lineup. This is about the long term and about building this and about developing this the right way. And that's how we're looking at it.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for doing this. You mentioned the salary retention aspect of it. The salary cap's not going to be an issue for you guys in the short term or the midterm. And you only get one shot at trading a Jack Eichel, right? So wouldn't have retaining salary, weaponizing that cap space, have opened up the trade market in a way that it wasn't opened up to you because you had teams that simply weren't in because of his salary cap hit?
No, in terms of conversations and offers that were made. So the short answer is no. And also, like I said, the flexibility moving forward for us to have the ability to make other decisions down the road that maybe we wouldn't be able to make if we had done that. So that's why it was a non-starter, and teams certainly picked up the phone and made offers with that, even though I said it was a non-starter. But it just it didn't move the needle in terms of the return, and it wasn't something we were going to compromise on.
Hey, Kevin. Just in regards to Jack, as it applies to a guy like Rasmus Dahlin, Jack spent 6 years here, never reaching the playoffs, and now you've got Rasmus, who is in year 4. You mentioned that you guys are not in a rush, but how do you avoid what happened to Jack becoming what happens now to Rasmus if you guys aren't able to kind of turn that corner in a quick fashion?
Yeah, it's making sure the internal expectation and vision is aligned and right. So you can want to put a plan together, and then you can compromise from it and make a snap decision or make an emotional decision to try to jumpstart or fast forward. And that's a challenge. So we have a vision of how we're going to do this, and we're not going to compromise in how we build this organization. And we're not afraid, and Donnie included, he's been part of all these conversations to bring along these players, to develop these players, to get them the feel for what it's like. And that could mean the young players in Buffalo, and that could mean players that are in Rochester. It works both ways. What we're working towards is building around this young core that ultimately keeps getting better, keeps growing, and then we can move forward with. So we want to go out and win every single hockey game we can when you lace up the skates. There's absolutely, that's the message. Be competitive, do everything you can every night to win every time you step on the ice. But we're not going to compromise in the short term to make sure we're changing our strategy along the way, I guess the best way to say it.
Kevin, I'm looking for a two-part question here. Give me clarity on the two players. First of all, Alex Tuch's medical status. I know initially that was ruled a 6-month injury. There's some talk that might be a little less than that. And a little more thought on Peyton Krebs. I mean, he would certainly rate, I'm sure, as one of your top 12 forwards right now. Why go to Rochester instead of coming here?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Alex, he's doing well, I'd say, in terms of his rehab and where he's at. Looks like he's going to be out a couple more months, which we knew. Obviously, we knew all of that. Going into this, that had been checked out behind the scenes. Our doctor's very comfortable with where he's at and that situation. So when he's ready, he'll play. I'm not exactly sure what the date will be, but when he's cleared, he'll be on the ice. And in terms of Peyton, it's just making sure we set him up for success. You're absolutely right. He can be jumping into our lineup tonight and play, and we know he's a really good hockey player right now. And what we're excited about is the hockey player he's going to become over time. And that's our focus, making sure that we set him up for success. And these are similar conversations like JJ Peterka, Jack Quinn, Samuelson, all these guys that you talk about. It's a balance. It's never, oh, this guy's ready today or this guy will be ready next week. It's just individual cases you look at and you say, okay, what sets them up for success? And in our mind, it was just catch your breath, get your feet under you a little bit, get new to used to the organization, and let's build this thing. And when it's the right time, he'll be here, and he'll be here for a long time.
Hey, Kevin, you've talked at times just about learning on the job and how much fun it's been to say and be in scouting meetings per se. What did you learn through this process about trading a superstar player?
It has been a really challenging situation. It's so complicated, John, when you're dealing, I mean, you said it, when you're dealing with a superstar level player is complicated enough. And then you take in the medical and all the other things that were going on. I learned that, things can, you have to take emotion out. You have to take a step back. You have to rely on the people around you to help give you clarity when you're going through challenging times. I mean, I want to say our hockey group has been amazing. Jason Carmanos and Mark Jakubowski, Sam Ventura, Jeremiah Kroll, these guys daily, I mean, multiple times a day, we're talking about different options and players and prospects. And so, and then there's people from the business side, Dave Zigai and Mike McFarland on the business side are in my office explaining some legal stuff and explaining financials. I mean, this has been such a intense process. And I've learned a lot. I'll continue to learn. And one of the things that I think is amazing about this job is 2 days are never the same. You get up every day and you do your best and you do things the right way. You treat people the right way and you learn. And I think that'll never change, John. I think when I'm in this for, a long time, I'm going to say, man, I learned something today. And I think then it's open to the learning, right? Like taking that in, thinking about it. I've learned from some of the things that have happened the last year that helped me as I dealt with the Jack thing, so it just, I guess I wasn't ready for that question, but it's just for me to kind of take a breath and think about it. I'll certainly digest it all, but it's been intense and it's been challenging, and I'm really appreciative of how this worked out.
Hey, Kevyn, John Worrell once again. I have two questions. In the first is how you saw the team, how the team has responded to not having Jack, given its 5-3-1 start. And the other question is why. We all know that Jack is among the best players in the world. Why did it have to come? Why didn't it work with him?
The first part of your question first, I would say the guy, day one of training camp, I addressed the team, as I believe I mentioned to you guys in one of the press conferences, and just told them the absolute truth of what's gone on in the past, where we are today, and where we're headed, and took all of the uncertainty or drama or whatever word you want to use around the Jack situation out of it. And told them I was here for the guys. They could call me. I could go out to grab a coffee with them. I'll give you more, whatever you guys want. I'm here. So there's been a complete, open and honest, transparent communication from me with the players and coaches and everyone in the organization for that matter. So I do believe the players appreciated that and said, okay, this is where we're at. It's our team. We're going to move forward. And I want to say from the leadership standpoint, Kyle Ekposo and Zemgus Girgensson have been, everything I was hoping and Donnie was hoping they could be. And there's more, guys like Pissick and Hag and Anderson that have come in this year have been tremendous leaders and really valuable to that locker room. So I really believe when I see our team practice, I see a team that cares about each other, that has fun, that loves competing in practice, and you can't fake that. And then that carries over to the games. These guys really care about each other. They want to play hard. They enjoy each other. They want to see each other have success. And that's really powerful. So that's an exciting thing for us to build and to continue to build and work on moving forward. What was the second part of your question? Did I give you too long of an answer, John? Sorry.
Sorry, I muted myself so I could listen. Why did things not work with Jack in the end? Ultimately, just beyond the injury, beyond just whatever, to trade away a franchise player like this, just why didn't things work?
Well, I can tell you from my perspective the answer, and I think you'd have to ask Jack, but. He shared with me that, he was ready to it was a frustration for him, and it all built over time. And, and that's where he got to. So that I don't know exactly, and I don't want to put words in his mouth of why it didn't work per se, but things happen for a reason. And I was very clear to him that we need to build this organization with people that are dying to be Buffalo Sabres, that care so much about that jersey they're going to put on. And that's how we have to move forward. So it's not personal. I wish him the best. I really do. I think he's in a really good spot. And I think we got a really, really good return in a really challenging situation that we can move forward with in our organization. And that's what I'm thankful for and thinking about.
Hi, Kevin. I've heard you say a number of times, and again today, that you're not in a rush. And I think most of us understand that with how you're trying to build this thing and turn this corner for the franchise. At the same time, I think fans would have this question, and maybe your start this year to an extent speaks to it. What is your timetable for an elite level of success now that you've completed this deal, now that a lot of the parts are in place? what should fans expect in terms of a true high, maybe elite level of competitiveness for this franchise?
Yeah, I'm not dodging the question because but I will tell you, it's really hard to put a timeline on that to give you an answer, because there's so much. Owen Power's not here yet. He's going to be a big part of this moving forward. There's players in Rochester that are huge part of where we're headed as an organization. They're not here yet, and so there's certain players that are in our lineup right now that are developing like daily. Look at the difference in a Tage Thompson and things that you see out of Tage. Where's he going to be in a year? So there's so much of that still has to crystallize and come together. But the expectation is that we are going to build, and we're going to keep challenging each other and holding each other accountable. And I truly believe then when you get the culture right and you continue to add to the talent level of the locker room, special things can happen. So I'm not gonna give you a timeline on that, but I'm gonna say the expectation is extremely high inside this organization. But we, at the same point, are not going to make a short-term compromise to chase something that we think could set us back in the longer term. We have to be patient. But in saying that, we have to go out and compete and get better every day. And that's what the coaches have been really, really working on since day one of training camp.
Thank you.
Kevin, you said that Jack expressed frustration, but did that expression of frustration also come with a request to maybe continue his career elsewhere? I know you said you didn't want to put words in his mouth, but just reading between the lines there.
I think I don't want to get into that, Lance. I think the important part for me to explain to you guys is that Jack and I had multiple face-to-face conversations and very honest conversations, and him honest with me honest with him. So, I'm well aware of, his feelings and where things were. And then obviously there was an agent change, and, Pat Brisson came aboard and, built a really strong relationship with Pat, and we were able to be honest with each other. So yeah, Lance, I'm going to stay away from that. But I will tell you that we felt very strongly in what we were doing and how we were going to build this franchise. And we were going to do what we thought was right, but we weren't going to be in a rush. We had to get what we felt was the right return, and that, that day came.
Alex Tuck used to work out in Buffalo. Maybe he still does during the off season. Did you work with him on the ice and get to know him during that time at all?
No, I did not. He has been around at times over the years. What I can tell you is I got to know his younger brother when he spent time in Buffalo. I've met his parents, years ago. Unbelievable family, just, quality people. And as I said, Alex said to me, it's a dream come true to be a Buffalo Sabre. This is a guy that grew up watching the Sabres and dreamed about playing for the Sabres. And that's powerful. And that our fans are going to see and hear that, when he speaks, and then ultimately when he gets back on the ice. But he was, so that's, the background. I do have a background on the family, and, knowing the character of the people and all of that definitely plays into it.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Kevin.
Thank you, everyone.